And it's a good Friday morning. Welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. And of course, I'm Sky and your host for today. We're not only on YouTube, we're on SoundCloud. And also, for those of you who want to support, we're also on Patreon with Latte with Sky. Now, what day is it today? And it's kind of like, you'll never really notice what day it is. It's because, usually Fridays you look forward to because on the weekend, what do? On the weekend, you're going to go out, you're going to hang out with friends, go to restaurants and stuff like that. But now it is lockdown time. Coronavirus is just killing everything, right? So now Friday's not really like a Friday because now you have to look forward to just doing the exact same thing you did all week during lockdown, which is what? Stay at home and do absolutely nothing. Probably just ordering tons of food, or some of you might be cooking some food too. What I want to do today is I just want to make sure that everyone's doing well and kind of keeping your sanity during this lockdown crisis during the coronavirus. So let's get into today's show. Okay, so as usual, we're gonna highlight a new artist. Okay, and the artist I'm going to highlight today is going to be from New Zealand, Wellington. Her name is Star. Okay, she attends the Wellington Lord's Truth Church. And those of you, if you've heard it online, what's so special about this Wellington church is they're one of only 2 churches in the entire world that is actually not doing online. However, news came out today, and what does it say? What did the New Zealand government do? They closed their borders because coronavirus is getting nuts in there too, which means soon they, just like all of us, just like the rest of us, will be going online. And I'm pretty sure that, the only church at that point would be Kenya. Okay, so Star, she's been writing music since she was 8 years old, and when she came to this history in 2013, she just continued to do what she did. And the song you're going to hear today by Star, sung by her too, is Holy House. Okay, now I'm not going to, like Holy House. No, not like that. It's Holy House. Now, when you guys think about a Holy House, what are you thinking? Holy House is none other than the 316 Memorial. And we all know that place and how amazing it was, and that's where the inspiration for this song came from. Okay, how did this inspiration come? Well, last year, what was the one thing that was new and great that was happening in the 316 Memorial Hall? What was it? It was the new ceiling that was designed, right, by the Holy Trinity through Sunsteam, and Sunsteam was just showing off what the Trinity was doing like almost every week. And the crazier part was he's like teasing us. Right? It was such a tease because he talked about it online all the time. He's like, but can't show it. Not going to show it. And we, even to this day, we have never seen it on the broadcast, which means what? You have to see it live. And what happens is an experience like Star had is what's going to happen. She said that when she went last year with the New Zealand church, she said she saw the ceiling and she said her body began to tremble. And, they were able to perform in front of Sunsteam a Maori song and then the wedding banquet. But at the end of it, there's like, as a musician, when you see something very inspiring, she said there's no other way, there's nothing else you do but to write a song about this. And that's why the first song and the highlight song we're going to look at today is from Star, and the song is going to be Holy House. The second song we're going to do is another Somni Boys, and also featuring Grace Cho, who's over there as an assistant leader in San Francisco Rock Church. I had the pleasure of being able to work with her in the New York Word Church when I was there. So please listen carefully and listen to these talented artists of Providence. First song by Star called Holy House, and the second one is the Somni Boys, Ice Cream. And that's also featuring Grace Cho.
Looking out on the window, making eyes at the clouds, wondering where did the time go, hanging tight to you now. hear your breath getting loud, loud. Stop the sun and stop the moon. Make it last forever, me and you. Stop the stars and stop the door. Let the night go on and on. This is our holy hands, decked out in the sapphire blue. Midnight struck, God fell in love. Now I'm in a holy house with you.
Nike's on my feet, with J's on deck. You could have whatever you want, cause I'm your date. I wanna look the best for you, make you feel special too. Buy a dozen roses all for you, I flatter you. I know you're not the type to love in all the fancy things. Jewels, clothes, cars, rings, they don't mean a thing. We don't have to spend $1,000 to have a fun time. A lot of ways to show you how you're mine, hey. Even though I've seen many couples, I'm not distracted by seeing all those things. When what we have is very precious, and I ain't even jealous. I just wanna make you wanna sing, hey.
I walk around even deeper as the time goes by. Let us share every single minute till we die. We can go to the park and go and get some ice cream. I don't mind what you get as long as you are happy.
I'ma give you all my love and never stop. You might be only thinking about you like all the time. I want you to know that you're the only one I see, you're the only one I need right now.
Look, it don't matter what other people think, I'll still follow your path. Let me take the lead, in fact, let me hold your hand. Let's go get some ice cream and talk about our day. I wanna make sure not a single second goes to waste. Let's go to the park and lay in the grass, looking at the beautiful clouds in the sky. It's just endless like I love, I'm blinded by your love. I'ma cherish every moment of my life with you.
I walk around even deeper as the time goes by. Let us share every single minute till we die. We can go to the park and go and get some ice cream. I don't mind what you get as long as you are happy. You're the one I come to when I'm all by myself. You're who I run to. I want you to know that you're the only one I see, you're the only one I
And there you go. That is Ice Cream by the Sumney Boys featuring Grace Cho. And also we heard the featured artist for today, and that was Juice Star. And that song, a great song called Holy House. And I do believe we'll be getting an interview with her later in the future. So I hope that all of you can look forward to these interviews we'll be having soon. I actually, today I've already had an interview with Dia Wings from Korea, so we'll be posting that interview up, and I'll also be meeting many other artists, and I'm looking for professionals in their fields, and just to have great conversation with them and put them up on these podcasts. So now let's move on to, of course, the one thing that everyone's talking about everywhere in the world, and there's only one thing, and what is it? It's the coronavirus, COVID-19, and yesterday I told you we hit 200,000. And look, within 24 hours, we've already upticked to about over 15,000 more. We're over 221,801 at the moment. And you know what? By the time you guys hear this, it's going to be even higher. What's crazier even is when you look at obviously all the countries that are gaining the most infected people. Number one is obviously Italy, and over 4,200 people were infected, or they were, basically 4,200 more people infected. And that's about a 13.4% growth of people infected. But the country that has leapfrogged everyone else, number two, is now the United States. And the U.S. has almost 9,500 people, and about 3,000 people have been diagnosed and infected with the coronavirus, which is over 45% growth in infected people. Of course, we have Germany, France, Spain, United Kingdom. But that big one we have right now is the United States. And of course, that number should be going higher, because if you look at Italy is about 60 million people. And the United States is what? United States is like 350 million people. So it's something that you have to take into consideration. Right now, I'm in Malaysia, and we're in lockdown in day 3. Man, and Friday's day 3. We're gonna hit 1,000 pretty soon. It was 110 just yesterday, and it brought us over 900 people that are infected, which is the most amount of infected people in Southeast Asia. So we got to make sure that we pray for the politicians and pray for all the healthcare specialists and all the people working in the healthcare industry, so that they will be able to handle this influx of new infected people. Now, coronavirus, there's some things I want to talk about first, but the first I want to talk about is some myths, okay? There's some crazy myths out there, and I really want you guys to be informed and research really well. And all the information I get, they're only going to be from doctors, the WHO, the CDC, and people who are well versed in this area. Okay, so a couple of myths is this. Like I know this is kind of weird, but some people are actually thinking that, oh my gosh, what if I have pets? Can I get coronavirus from my pets? And the answer is no, you can't. And yes, there was one instance in China where there was a dog that had like a mild infection of the coronavirus, but they do not have symptoms and they cannot give it to other people. So please don't worry about that stuff about having pets. Don't worry about it, okay? Second thing is, this is kind of crazy and ridiculous, but this is on the internet too. This myth is, will I get coronavirus if I get packages from China because I order from Alibaba and then I don't know if I should touch it anymore? And the answer is, it's fine, right? Some people are even going, should I go to restaurants that Chinese restaurants? I'm like, are you kidding me? What do you mean you can't go to Chinese restaurants? Because if you look at the situation now, Italy's the worst. Does that mean you're not going to go to Italian restaurants? What, you're not going to order anything from Italy because, oh my gosh, Italy has the worst cases of coronavirus? Well, right now, America is the one that's rising high and fast, right? So does that mean you can't get anything from America? Oh, no more Google? It's like, oh no, I just used Google, which is American. Will I get coronavirus for using Google or Amazon? Come on, guys. Right? Yeah, that's a total myth. You're not going to get it from your pets. You're not going to get it from a Chinese restaurant in another, if you're in Wuhan, if you're in China, yeah, that might be a different story. If you're in Italy, if you're in the hot epicenter, right? If you're in those areas, obviously, no matter what you do, you're gonna have a high chance of getting it. But here I'm in Malaysia right now, and guess what? I'm not gonna get it from going to a Chinese restaurant. And the only reason I'll get it at a Chinese restaurant is because someone there is infected, but not from the food. And I don't think that they're ordering pigs or chickens or whatever from China either. So, please don't think about those things. But on a more serious note, I want to talk about some things that are myths right now. And I want you to understand this very, very carefully. Is according to research I talked about him yesterday, Michael Ostenholm, and of course he is like the director of like serious disease policy and research, and basically masks don't help you from getting the coronavirus, right? And I'm gonna be a little bit more detailed about this. Just surgical masks. Surgical masks are not going to help. The only mask that you have to get from is an N95 respirator. Only from that point do you actually get some help, because it fully covers and it takes away all, like, there's no air pockets and like stuff coming from the sides, right? Regular surgical masks is people who are already sick should be wearing those so that they don't spread the droplets to other people. So if you sneeze, what happens is, why do people say social distancing? You should be like 5 feet, 6 feet, or was it 1.5 meters, 2 meters away from people? Is because when someone coughs or sneezes, that's kind of like the distance where these droplets from your mouth come out, right? So if you have a surgical mask, then it's going to stop those water droplets from coming out and infecting someone else. So, what I'm saying is these masks, they're not really helping. There's no point of you going and getting surgical masks. If you really want a mask that's going to help you, it is an N95 respirator. It has to be a respirator, okay? So that's one myth. Second myth is about hand sanitizers, okay? Now, I'm not going to say it doesn't help, right? So a lot of infectious diseases, I was listening to Michael Ostenholm speak about the hand sanitizer. He said, yeah, there's a lot of infectious diseases that are killed by hand sanitizers. But he says the number one thing that will stop this viral infection from getting to you is soap and warm water or hot water. Those are the things that you really need, right? When it comes to SARS virus and coronavirus, hand sanitizer is not the substitute for washing your hands, but it is a complement. It'll help with it. But number one is 20 seconds of washing your hands, hot water with soap, and that is the number one and best way. Okay? Especially, the reason why they're telling you right now is, yeah, of course, it's going to help you. It's a great habit to have, and it's something that will stop you from having other diseases and viruses. But when it comes to coronavirus, and when it also comes to, like, say, what SARS virus, which is, coronavirus is kind of like a form of the SARS virus, the hand sanitizers aren't not really helping that much, right? But it's a great habit to have as a complement to hand and soap. A complement. So I'm not saying don't do it. It's a great complement to it. Okay. Now, I was listening to a podcast, right? Or actually, it was a video of another doctor. Her name is Dr. Christy Short, and she's a virologist, and she's the head of influenza virus pathogenesis labs at the University of Queensland. Okay. Now, so she did this lecture about influenza virus, like the coronavirus 2 years ago. And she's talking about 2 years ago, it's almost scary. She's like, it could come back. The Spanish influenza, anything this big, you can have a pandemic coming back. And this was 2 years ago, she said in 2018. And the interesting thing about this talk, she talks about kind of the origins, right? What is the origin of like these influenza viruses, like these pandemic ones that have never been introduced to the world, people don't have immunity to? And she said that the origins of influenza viruses, they usually come from wild birds. Wild birds, okay? So if those of you, those of you who probably studied this, because none of you are probably alive during this time, but in 1918, it was the end of the World War, but it was also one of the greatest, we call it like it was like a Holocaust virus. And they say in the world, it killed 50 million plus people. You got to think about this number, guys. 50 million plus people were killed from the Spanish influenza, this flu virus that came in 1918. And back then, they didn't even know what a flu was. Like, understanding what a flu was didn't come until the 1930s. So can you imagine living in 1918, having no idea what a flu was, and then all of a sudden, people are just dying? And back then, there were some people that actually believed that sometimes it's just bad air. Bad air causes, these viruses to happen. And the interesting thing you have to know is, well, it's kind of true. It is bad air, but someone's causing that bad air, this viral infection to spread among tons of people. And she said, like, most likely, they're pretty sure about this, but it says most likely it's from wild birds. And these influenzas are coming from wild birds, and these wild bird infections, or these influenza flus, like coronavirus, like SARS, like MERS, they're wild bird infections, right? So these viruses come from wild birds. But she said there's two ways that a wild bird can infect people, right? So the first way that a wild bird can infect someone with a flu or a virus is called direct infection, which basically, they said most likely that was what happened in 1918 with the Spanish influenza, where a bird directly gives you that virus, okay? Now, the second way that a wild bird is able to give you an influenza virus is it starts off with the wild bird, and then it passes on to a mammal, like a pig or a horse or a camel, and then it mutates and becomes a virus that's good for mammals, that fits mammals better, and then it comes to human beings. And we all know this one as the swine flu, right? This is what happened at the swine flu time. In the swine flu, we know how bad it was. It was 2009. The swine flu came in. It was like 10 to 20% of the entire world was infected, and over 300,000 people died of the swine flu, right? How did that happen? Is exactly what I said. Started with a wild bird. It went to a pig, and then that's what we call it, swine flu. But it's kind of not really even the pig's fault, because it came from a wild bird, right? So it went from bird to pig to human. Okay. Now, in 2002, 2003, of course, all of us know that there was SARS too. That it started off in China, then went to 30 different countries, and that and they found that the SARS came from civet cats, right? So civet cats. Now, the interesting thing was, how did they know that the civet cats weren't? It didn't originate from the civet cat, because this virus was only found in civet cats in those Chinese wet markets. But the wild civet cats didn't have this SARS virus, which means that these civet cats in these wet markets where they're selling all these wild animals were actually getting it from somewhere else. And what did they find out? Lo and behold, there was the Chinese horseshoe bat. And that horseshoe bat and the civet cats were, they're all in the same area being sold together. And what happens is these bats gave it to the cats, and the cats gave it to the people. Right, and it's not any different, because MERS too in the Middle East, where they got it from camels, right? So we have to realize that there is an origin for this, and there's also got to be some type of a realization from this, of course, and it's really scary, because the one thing I was listening to these doctors, and the one question that people were asking was, is this like a homemade bomb? You know what I mean? Like, is this like a like a biological warfare? And what the doctor said is, we are not smart enough, and we don't have the creativity to make something like this. And basically what this doctor said is, nature creates the greatest and the most dangerous of these. And I really thought to myself, when Sunstein talks about in the past about when judgment comes, right? Like, you cannot mimic or copy an earthquake. Like, the power of an earthquake, all the nuclear bombs in the world couldn't create the power that comes from an earthquake or a tsunami or a typhoon, or like all these things. You cannot compare, and it comes from when God uses nature to judge humankind. Like, man, it's so crazy that what human beings can do. Like, anthrax is something supposed to be like 2 square miles or 1 square mile of people will die. That's nothing, right? You're looking at the Spanish influenza that killed 50 million people. Swine flu took out 300,000. We're already here getting closer and closer to 10,000 people dying, right? Back in China, when there was an earthquake in 2008, I believe, or 2008 or 2009, and that was like, 2008, that was something like 70,000 people. Tsunami was over 300,000 people. So, looking at how God works, the scale that God is on is so crazy. right? It's so big. I hope that all of us here too, as we're slowly learning more and more about this COVID-19, this coronavirus, that we become more aware, and then Sunseam said that we become people that be careful on our own, knowing the right information. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a praise song, right? Because after we hear scary things, we got to hear some praise, right? We got to be able to sing something to God and be thankful for. And the one thing that I chose this song, and the song is Only This Remains, right? And the reason I chose this is because even no matter what we're going through, right? No matter what we're going through, no matter all the things that are happening in this world, no matter how terrible it is, the one thing that will remain is what? Is this love between us and God, that God has chosen us. He's given us everything. He's given us love. He's given us the words of God, and He raptured us, and we're gonna go to heaven. In the end, only that remains. All this suffering and pain, all these things that we think, oh my gosh, can God really do this? All this stuff goes away. Pain comes and goes, suffering comes and goes. But the love of God is the thing that remains in the end.
The Lord has chosen me. He's given me all things. He's told me with His love, and He has led me. The time arrived, He brought me to the bright golden city, and there we have fulfilled the greatest love. So now I will live just to love Him. I will give all my heart and life. I'll call His name and seek Him every day. I will sing and I'll praise Him. I will dance 'cause I love Him. I will share love with Him daily, having rapture, and I'll always offer glory in my life, for only this remains. There's nothing else for me, as I've received all things, so I will offer everything before my King. I'll always love the Lord, and I'll converse with Him daily, and so I shall repay His greatest grace. So now I will live just to love Him. I will give all my heart and life. I'll call His name and seek Him every day. I will sing and I'll praise Him. I will dance 'cause I love Him. I will share love with Him daily, having raptured, and I'll always offer glory in my life, for only this remains. So now I will live just to love Him. I will give all my heart and life. I'll call His name and seek Him every day. I will sing and I'll praise Him. I will dance 'cause I love Him. I will share love with Him daily, having rapture, and I'll always offer glory in my life, for only this remains. So just to love him. I will give all my heart and life. I'll fulfill the missions that he's given me. I will preach with his shame drawn. Yes, I'll testify for him. I will share life with him daily, having raptured, and I'll always offer glory in a life, for only this remains. For only this remains. For only this remains. For only this remains. For only this remains.
And that is Only This Remains. I hope that you guys enjoyed that praise song. After we get those scary news about the coronavirus, we can, sit there and even give thanks to God, even in this crazy situation. This week, the message, thank God, when you heard the title of this, you're like, oh, eternal love. Oh, yes, the eternal love of God. And it's like, oh, yes, in this time of judgment, we do want to hear these messages of love. And I thought to myself, like, wow, what is this week's message going to be about? There's two things that I really want to talk about today. The first one is about knowing, like, if you want to know God, right? Because in our minds, like, what do we think to ourselves is, okay, if I want to love someone, I need to know them first, right? So it's like, yeah, I can't love anyone I don't know. But the thing very interesting about this week's message is that when on Sunday he said that if you want to know God, you must love him first. And you're like, what? It's like, that's totally opposite. It's like, oh, that the feeling like that is, oh, I'm going to marry him first and love him before I get to know him, right? And then I get to know him while I'm loving him. And it's kind of really weird when you think about, like, wow. You got to think about this. You have to love them first before you in order for you to know them. And for us as human beings, the thought process in our head, we think the exact opposite is, I can't love him until I know him. And I thought to myself, is there an example in this world that people can love before they know? And the answer is yes, there is. And you're like, what? Since when? Is there ever an example where you can love someone before you even know them? And the answer is, it's like parents and children. One of the most amazing things when you look at this, when you could really see this godly love in parents and children. Why? Because even before the child is born, is the moment these parents make the decision to have a child. What are they thinking in their minds? They're not thinking, I'm going to hate this kid, or they're not thinking, I'm going to beat this kid if it doesn't listen to me. And they're not thinking, they're not thinking to themselves these crazy things that we think of. It's like, think about it. They're not thinking about getting to know them before loving them. They're loving them first. And because they love them first, what happens is, no matter what they do, they put up with it. They care about them more. They take care of them, they give them their advice, and they try to make their children just live these amazing lives. And it's before they're even born, the parents are already thinking, I'm going to love this child to death. I'm going to love this child more than any other. I'm going to make sure this child has so much love that there's no excuse why this child can't live a successful and a great life. When you think about it, it's quite amazing that it's true. Love, in order for there to be a true love, there has to be that love for a person first before you get to know them, right? And, this is not just, of course, we're not talking about just strangers out in the streets, but in a sense, we do kind of love them at their level. For instance, I don't know any of the people that walk down, well, not these days, we're in lockdown, but, when we're not in lockdown, we walk by people all the time. And do I love them? And the answer is, I kind of, at the level of a stranger, I do love them. And because of that love, I'm not going to drive my shoulder into their chest or bump into them on purpose or punch them in the face, right? It's like people, for the level of love we have for that stranger, we love them already and give them that respect, and we don't want to hurt each other. We don't punch or be violent towards each other or even say something nasty about them, right? Which means we're already loving them. And when someone says hi, we turn and say hi back to them. What we have to learn from this when it comes to between us and God. Why is it that we have to love God first? It's the same. You got to think about this. What Sunsteam said in this week's message is, God loved us first. He loved us first. This is why we love him. He loved us even before anything else. He already loved us. That's why it reminds me of this great verse in the book of 1 John that we're in this. Oh, not this week, it is in. Was it 1 John chapter 3 verse 16 to 18, or John chapter 3 verse 16 to 18? But it was 1 John chapter 4 verses 9 through 12, I believe, right? And the most amazing part about that message was, he says, God loved us first. God, because he loved us, he sent his son because of that love. And in 1 John chapter 4, verse 19, it says, we love him because he loved us first. And the reason why we can love God right away is because that love is already there. He's already loved us, right? He's given this whole mess, like what Sunsteam talked about on Monday for 316 and on Wednesday is all about all the things God did for him. That you can, without any risk, love God first. And when you love someone, you're interested. And when you love someone, you put up with them. And when you love someone, you'll be patient. You'll be kind, right? And it leads me to this second point, which I thought was very, very needed in this society. Is Sunsteam says it's impossible to love if you calculate, right? If you're always there pointing out the wrongs, what they did wrong, right? Point, oh, you did this, and you know, at that point, if you focus on those things, it is actually impossible to love someone. Why? Because everyone has so many things that are wrong with them. We just do. You guys have had it before when you're mad at someone, and all you start doing is pointing out all the bad things they do. Right? Someone says, hey, why don't we try this person? You're like, oh no, this person doesn't do this. They're lazy. They're this, then that. They said this to me, and we start pointing out all these wrong things. But what Sunsteam said is instead, you have to praise them. Praise them for the things they've done, right? Encourage them. Praise them for the things that they've already done. That's what you have to focus on. And I hope that all of us here too will just really realize that in order for us to kind of show people in this world the love of God, right? The love that the Lord has given to us. It's like that story, that parable that Jesus gave is someone had like $10 million in debt, and the king felt sorry for him and forgave him of his debts. And then right when this guy gets out of jail, he goes and finds someone who owes him like $5 and puts him in jail for not paying him back. And the king's like, what the heck are you doing? I just forgave you your debts for like $10 million. You can't even forgive someone for $5? And that's when someone begins to calculate, right? They don't see what they've already received. They don't see what they already have. And one of the hard parts is to forgive people is when you're only think about the things they did to you, right? But if you look at reality, if you really want to calculate, how many things have you done to other people? If you really think about that, right? If you really want to calculate, man, there is not a single person that could stand in front of God. But because of God's love, he encourages and he praises us for the things that we have already done. So I hope that we too can show and share this type of love towards God too. And I want to bring this to one of the last songs. This is going to be the last song for today. And this is a song that I really, really love, right? And this is a worldly song, but actually this song is an old song that debuted. It came out in 1970, okay? And I think it was like in January 1970, and it went straight to #1. And it is a song that was written by Simon and Garfunkel, right? And most of you were not even born in 1970 and have no idea who Simon and Garfunkel is. Go look it up, right? But this song was written by Paul Simon, and he got the title. It's called Bridge Over Troubled Water, and the title comes from a Baptist church hymnal. And this song that came from a hymn, a Baptist church hymn, went straight to number one. Today, it's going to the version I'm going to show you is sung by a Korean singer named So-hyang, and she's kind of considered like what you'd call the Mariah Carey of Korea, the Mariah Carey of Korea. Okay, and she's amazing singer. And you just so much emotion in it, and when you listen to it, you'll understand. And the one goal she has when she sings is she wants to use her voice to comfort people in difficult times. And of course, this is the perfect song. Bridge over troubled water basically means troubled waters is like rocky waters that are like very dangerous and like rapids, right? And that's symbolizing your life going through difficult times. And then if there's a bridge over it, then you can cross the troubled waters safely, right? So listen carefully to this song. Amazing song. This is Bridge Over Troubled Water from Simon and Garfunkel, sang by So-hyang. Okay. Bridge Over Troubled Water by So-hyang. Here we go.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. When times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water. I will lay me down like a bridge over troubled water.
And there it is, Bridged Over Troubled Water, and that is So Young. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yes, it is a time where there's a lot of troubled waters all over the world, but we do have the bridge, and the bridge is the Lord, and I hope that everyone will have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. This last thing I want to show you guys is this. This is probably one of the most popular movies going out right now. It is an old movie from 2011 called Contagion, and it's exactly about what we're going through right now, which is a pandemic. And of course, if you get really, really scared about what's going on right now, this is like totally not the movie to watch because it's gonna freak you out. The only reason that I took a look at this is because this movie, of course, has famous people like Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow. There's like Kate Winslet and Lawrence Fishburne, Jude Law. It's interesting because they have there's some good points in there that talk about what we're going through right now that you can look at. But I do recommend this for now if you don't get scared easily. But I hope that all of you will have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and that we'll really be able to see you guys again on Monday. All right, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again here on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
Gotta let go. Gotta let go.